I'm here to speak to you about the homelessness problem we have in the Yuma Sutter area and a solution. The scene is all too familiar for most of us that live in the area. We see those who are asking for help on corners and in front of storefronts. According to the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, Sutter and Yuba County have the highest rate of homelessness than California or the U.S. average. So, what is homelessness? According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, an individual or family can be described as homeless if they live in a place that isn't habitable for human or an emergency shelter, transitional housing, hotels that are paid for by a government or even a charitable organization. They may be at a position in life where they're going to lose their primary nighttime residence within 14 days and they have no other resources or support to obtain permanent housing. They may be unaccompanied youth under the age of 25 or families with youth that are defined as homeless under the federal statute who do not otherwise qualify as homeless under this definition. They have not had a lease and have not moved 2 or more times in the past 60 days and are likely to remain unstable because of special needs or barriers. They may also be fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or other dangerous life-threatening conditions that relate to violence against an individual or family member, and who lack resources to obtain other permanent housing because of these situations. In the Yuba Sutter area, according to the 2021 PIT count, there are 1,074 persons who are experiencing homelessness. Of those people, there are 278 people who are 0 to 17 years old. There are 82 people that are 18 to 24 years old, and 734 people who are 25 years or older. In Yuba Sutter, we do have several short-term solutions to homelessness. We rely heavily on faith-based organizations, for instance, Hands of Hope. We also have temporary housing that our Human Resources and Health Department do pay for, and that looks like motel rooms. We also have an emergency shelter in Yuba City that goes by REST, and we do have 14 Forward. So why do we have so many people in our area that are homeless? We do have some contributing factors, and some of that is lack of affordable housing for low-income and extremely low-income persons. The lack of dwellings available for rent in the Yuba Sutter counties, and high fees that are associated with available housing, such as security deposits, application fees, pet fees. All of these things create significant barriers for people who are at risk or who are experiencing homelessness. They don't have the funds to pay these fees. And with a lack of dwellings, sometimes there just aren't any places to go to even apply. So what I propose is an approach called Housing First. Housing First is a little bit different than a lot of the other approaches that we already have. One of the basic tenets for Housing First is that housing is a basic human right. Housing readiness is not required for Housing First. That means you don't have to be sober. You don't have to prove that you're in a program that is helping you to become sober, because you have the right to housing. You're not going to have an assessment for housing readiness. And Housing First offers a permanent house. It doesn't offer transitional housing or some temporary shelter. Tenants will have full rights and responsibilities and legal protections for their homes. They also will have a separation of housing and services, meaning their housing isn't dependent upon which services they choose to engage in. That might be services for drug addiction, mental health, or otherwise. There are also some practices and policies that help prevent lease violations and evictions. That might come in the form of rental assistance or assistance in making payments if you're late. It also may come in the form of counseling for money management. And the great thing about Housing First, it is applicable in many different housing models. That might be an apartment or a single family unit. There are other different models in which we can use it in. Housing First also makes a commitment to working with clients for as long as they need. That means if they need help in the long term, then they can get it. They may be needing continuous support in how to manage their money, and they can get that support. They may need continuous support for mental health. They also can get that support. There is an element of recovery orientation. That means we're going to support our people in recovery. So how do we fund this? One of the things that I see is that homelessness puts pressure on local programs and services. That may be the police or ER services. And that costs money. So there was a study that found that if we put 10 people in 10 homes, after 6 months, we're going to save $668,000 by not having to provide these services for these people, because they need to spend less time in hospitals, police custodies, and shelters because they have a permanent home. Permanent homes reduce a lot of issues in which you might need to be in a hospital. So I say we use some of this money that we are going to save on providing these services and invest it in our community, in our people. We can take the money and invest it in constructing and rehabilitating structures that can be used for housing. So then we also take stress off of temporary housing, those faith-based services, 14 Forward, our health and human services that are providing funding for motels and hotel rooms for the night. That's all temporary. So by putting permanent people in permanent homes, we're going to save money. We can use that money to allocate to providing more permanent homes. We also have funding from HUD, HEAP, California Emergency Solutions and Housing. We have Community Development Block Grants and Emergency Solution Grants, and we're already receiving those in US Center. I propose we use a portion of this money to put into Housing First, to making those buildings, rehabilitating buildings, and training for these services. We really do need to be utilizing these block grants in developing and supporting affordable housing for our low-income residents and our homeless. They do need services. And this is one way to provide services. I do know that we have rapid relocations and other programs that we do use, but I do propose that we take the Housing First model and really adopt that and put more people in homes by lessening the restrictions that we have. I do have some resources up now if you're interested in learning more about what we are doing and what more we can do, and just some basic info on HUD and the Business Consumer Services for Housing Agency, as well as the Yuba Sutter Homeless Consortium. Thank you.